Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Now, if you are a Democrat politician, or the Democrat president, what signals the end for you? Well, I'll answer the question. The jig is up when you lose the biased, corrupt mainstream media. Joe Biden, one after another, they've been dropping like flies. It started with CNN, and lately with NBC, and now lefties' favorite outlet, the New York Times, has officially launched a campaign to dump Joe Biden. When you are a Democrat president and you are so in the gutter that you lose the New York Times, it's time to wrap it up, folks. It's time to pack your bags. At this point, it's probably time to resign. Joe Biden continues to be the biggest failure of a president imaginable, and this video is not different than the last one in the sense that things just keep getting worse for Joe. We're going to catalog all of it, we're going to follow all of it, and we're going to report on all of it. The saga that is the demise of geriatric dementia Brandon. We got some stuff to get into, folks, so let's roll the tape. Alright friends, so take a look at this right over here from Breitbart. New York Times launches campaign to dump Joe Biden. The far-left New York Times has launched a merciless campaign to kick his fraudulency Joe Biden out of office. The thing about the corporate media is, everything the media do, report, and focus on is only about achieving one goal: furthering the leftist fascist agenda that puts a central government in control of every American's life. You see, other than getting worse, the corporate media will never change, never improve, never embrace decency, truth, or honesty. The media's only morality is that which furthers their fascist cause. Once you understand and accept that, everything the media do makes perfect sense, and he's absolutely correct. It sounds facetious if you aren't paying attention, but it's something that once you see it, you cannot unsee it, and it all starts to make sense. This brings me to the New York Times. On Sunday, the Times published a piece attacking Joe Biden over his age. Here's the Times' brutal framing. Just a year and a half into his first term, Mr. Biden is already more than a year older than Ronald Reagan was at the end of his 2 terms. If he mounts another campaign in 2024, Mr. Biden would be asking the country to elect a leader who would be 86 years old at the end of his tenure, testing the outer boundaries of age and the presidency. Polls show many Americans consider Mr. Biden too old, and some Democratic strategists do not think he should run again. He often shuffles when he walks, and aides worry that he will trip on a wire. He stumbles over words during public events, and they hold their breath to see if he makes it to the end without a gaffe. And what a joke the New York Times is. We've seen 3 years of Joe Biden shuffling, falling down steps, falling off his bike, unable to formulate a basic sentence or thought, and all of a sudden they're reporting on it 3 years later. Complete jokes. That's how you know Joe Biden is done. On Monday, the Times published a devastating poll that shows a whopping 64% of Democrats want to vote for someone other than Joe Biden in 2024, while only 24% choose Joe. That poll also shows that Joe's overall approval rating has catered down to just 33%. Folks, the most recent New York Times / Siena College polling data has Joe Biden at 1/3 approval rating, with a negative 27% spread on that poll. Joe Biden is now down at a negative 20% spread on his approval. And even worse, we've been following this one as well. Joe Biden's approval rating now sinks to historic low of 29%. This in the civics poll that we've been covering recently. And we now have this headline right over here that Joe Biden is now the least popular president in the last 75 years. President Joe Biden's approval rating 18 months into his presidency is lower than any other president in more than 75 years, according to 538's polling on Monday. His approval rating has dropped to 38.4% and is historically lower than any modern-day president, with the exception of Harry Truman in his second year in office in 1946. Truman's approval rating was 33% 18 months into his term. I mean, just take a look at the comparison here, folks. Biden's approval rating 18 months into his presidency is worse than the following presidents at the same stage in their terms. I'm not going to read all of them one by one. You guys can see it on the screen, but I will focus on Donald Trump specifically. In 2018, Donald Trump's approval rating wasn't exactly stellar. At the height of the Russia collusion hoax, Donald Trump's aggregate approval rating at 42.1%. At the time, Donald Trump's approval rating was underwater by 9 points, and Democrats, I believe, gained 63 seats in the House. Well, Joe Biden is underwater 20 points, and he's a Democrat in Democrat polls. What does that mean for the House? We don't know exactly, but what we do know now for sure is that Joe is done. All of his favorite outlets are throwing him in the garbage. I mean, take a look at this segment from NBC News.
Some Democrats who did vote in 2020 are frustrated with the administration's failure to push through their agenda, pass the big-ticket legislation legislation and Biden's own reluctance or inability to use the bully pulpit to change people's minds. Biden was elected to restore competency and stability to Washington after Donald Trump. But his job approval trails other recent presidents, including Trump, at this point in the election cycle. After a lingering pandemic, the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan, failure to stem rising costs, failure to pass voting rights legislation, and a failure to substantially address climate change or immigration challenges.
Has the Biden administration done a good job handling the border?
They haven't done enough, no.
Whispers that Biden's age and leadership style make him ill-suited to run again in 2024 have gone very public.
I mean, that is scathing. It's the same phenomenon we've been covering forever. When Joe Biden first started, I mean, CNN was literally crying during his inauguration, or at least certain individuals like Van Jones and others were crying on CNN. It was miraculous, the greatest day in American history. The evil orange Glorf man has finally been defeated and America is back. And it's gone from that and Joe Biden can do no wrong to he's the worst president in modern history and he's failed on every single front. And really, people are starting to realize it. That's probably the worst part, and that's probably why Democrats want to get rid of him so badly right now, because Joe Biden is going to be a stain on the Democrat Party. That's going to be very hard to wash off. Fox News has been doing these segments interviewing former Biden supporters, or you could call them former Democrats, whatever you want. Segments like this.
So back in 2020, it was the first time I ever actually decided to vote, and I did vote for Joe Biden because of all the promises he had made. His main point was he's going to help the poor people, but and that the stimulus check. But we didn't get the full stimulus check that he had promised us. He didn't keep any of his promises. He's not helping the poor are getting poorer. I'm the poor, and I'm getting poorer, so I can barely afford to eat. Groceries are expensive. Gas is expensive. Like, how is gas $5 a gallon?
I started noticing that I made a huge mistake voting for Biden. Really just a couple of months after Biden took office. And it was a combination of a number of things. Part of it was just the handling of the pandemic. It was the handling of the economy. It's inflation. It's because I voted for someone who's essentially furthering Marxist ideas in our country that I regret voting for him. I mean, it really was a terrible choice.
And that right there really doesn't bode well for the Democrat Party. People waking up and realizing that they're getting played by the Democrat Party. And it's interesting because that's exactly how we categorize Democrat rhetoric and Democrat campaign strategy, promising to do something for the poor, quote, helping the poor, as the young lady said, and promising free stuff and handouts, essentially bribing people for votes. And a lot of uninformed voters, well, they fall for it. Well, the last year and a half has been a serious wake-up call. People were doing pretty well under the Donald Trump bull run. They voted for Joe Biden thinking that their lives would get better, and the exact opposite occurred. I mean, talk about a red pill. And now Democrat voters, the media, and the Democrat establishment are in a very weird position. They're trying to throw this guy overboard. But even though Joe Biden even admitted himself that he was a transition candidate.
Look, I view myself as a bridge, not as anything else.
Now that he's president, he doesn't seem to want to let go. Regardless of how much of a failure he's been, he keeps doubling down that he is in fact running again in 2024. And of course, Kamala Harris, like the political leech that she is latching on as tight as humanly possible.
There is speculation among some Democrats and some Republicans that President Biden won't run for re-election in 2024. What's your message to those who say that?
Listen to President Biden. He intends to run. And if he does, I intend to run with him. So there you go.
And you can tell that she is seriously sucking up to Sleepy Joe these days.
But as all of us know, gathered here today, we would not be here were it not for the vision, the courage, the unwavering determination of one particular individual, Joe Biden.
We would not be here if it were not for the vision, the courage, the unwavering determination of one particular individual, Joe Biden. The guy probably fell asleep as she was saying that. What courage, determination, or vision she's talking about, I still yet to understand. But this, as of right now, is just what Democrat voters are stuck with. They're stuck with the least popular president in modern history, at least at this time, in the last 75 years, and the most unpopular vice president in American history, based on the Gallup survey from last year. Dumb and dumber who continue to screw everything up, pat themselves on the shoulder, and then tell you to go vote for them again and refuse to step down. But when you've lost NBC, when you've lost CNN, when you've lost the New York Times, when your approval rating hits 33% in the New York Times/Siena poll, and your average is now at 37% and you're underwater by 20, I personally think it's time to resign. And it's definitely time to announce that you do not plan on running again in 2024. But these selfish, self-centered politicians who care only about themselves and their political legacy, politicians like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, no matter how many times they embarrass themselves, embarrass the nation, no matter the failure, no matter even their own party's political will and electoral will, I can pretty much guarantee you, unless something crazy happens, they will hold on and latch on to power no matter what the circumstance. And really, no matter what, at least in the foreseeable future, based on what we're seeing right now. This is a sinking ship, and even Democrat voters are jumping off the dock as it falls below surface level. That's what I got for you guys, though. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.